Some cases have simple conclusions. Some cases have one or two plausible theories. And some cases are so bizarre that they're still heavily debated more than a decade later. And this is one of those cases. It involves a missing boy, an empty house, and a scene so bizarre that it divided China between those who trusted the police, those who didn't, and those who believed in something else entirely. This is The Boy in Red. When I cover stories like this, I'm always reminded just how fragile life can be. One moment you're just living your day, and the next, everything changes. It could be an accident, an injury, something completely out of your control. And suddenly, you're faced with hospital bills, insurance companies, and stress that just doesn't seem to end. In the most challenging time of your life, you need someone who can help you. And most importantly, someone who can win for you. And for those of you living in the US, Morgan & Morgan might exactly do that. There's a reason every mystery has a victim waiting to be heard, just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm, with over 1,000 attorneys and 100 offices across the country. For more than 35 years, they've been fighting for the people, helping over 500,000 clients recover more than $25 billion in compensation. If you've been hurt in an accident, at work, or because of someone else's negligence, Morgan & Morgan's team can handle everything for you. The calls, the legal paperwork, the back and forth with insurance companies, so you can just focus on healing. And their track record is hard to ignore. In Florida, one client was offered $350,000 by an insurer until Morgan & Morgan fought and won $12 million. In Pennsylvania, another client's $500,000 offer turned into $29 million. So if you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. You can start your claim now by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen. Because when life turns upside down, you don't just need hope, you need someone who knows how to fight back. November 5th, 2009, a rural village in Chongqing, China. A father arrives at his old family home. He hasn't heard from his son in over a week. The front door is locked, the side door is locked, but the back door, a door the family never uses, always blocked by heavy wooden boards and a steel bar, is wide open. The barricade has been moved aside, placed neatly against the wall. He steps inside, and what he sees will haunt him for the rest of his life. There, hanging from the wooden rafters, is the body of his 13-year-old son. The boy is suspended by his wrists, which had been bound tightly to the beam above. His hands and feet are each wrapped with rope, 12 loops on each limb, tied with knots so precise and uniform they look professional. Between his feet hangs a heavy iron weight. His head is tilted upward, frozen in place. On his forehead is a small puncture wound, suggesting something sharp was pushed through the skin. But what makes the scene truly surreal is what the boy is wearing. A bright red floral dress, a woman's dress. Underneath it, a woman's black one-piece swimsuit. Stuffed inside the chest of the swimsuit are 2 wads of black cloth, shaped to mimic breasts. The boy's own clothes are nowhere to be found. This is the scene that would launch one of China's most disturbing unsolved mysteries. A case so bizarre that it would divide the internet between those who believed in a police cover-up, those who accepted a disturbing psychological explanation, and those who were convinced that something far darker, something supernatural, had taken place. To understand how a 13-year-old boy ended up in such a nightmare, we need to go back to learn more about him. His name was Kuang Zhijun. Zhijun was born and raised in Chongqing village, Banan district, Chongqing. It was a place steeped in tradition, the kind of rural community where elderly villagers still held folk beliefs, where festivals brought neighbors together, and where everyone knew everyone. For Zhijun, it was home. But like many children in rural China, Zhijun was what they call a left-behind child. His parents, Kuang Zhijun and Gu Donghui, worked as farmers in Jiangbei district on the northern side of Chongqing. The work was too far for a daily commute, so they lived apart from their only son. Zhijun stayed at a boarding school, where he was a 7th grader in class 2. His classmates described him as a quiet and introverted boy. He did what his teachers told him, studied hard, and kept to himself. He didn't have many close friends, but the ones he had said he was fascinated by one thing: ghost stories. If you ask Zhijun about any folktale or supernatural legend, chances are he already knew it. The family still owned their old house near the school, the home where Zhijun had grown up before his parents moved out of Bannan district for work. It sat empty most of the time now, dusty and unkept, but it was still theirs, and every weekend, Zhijun would make the trip to Jiangbei to visit his parents. It was their routine, the only real time they were able to spend together as a family. On October 24th, 2009, Zhijun made his usual weekend visit to his parents in Jiangbei. It was a cold weekend, and the family spent their brief time together as they always did. Before leaving to return to school, Zhijun mentioned something to his mother. He said he wanted to stop by the old house, maybe to clean it up a bit. And his mother didn't think much of it. She gave him a few hundred yuan for food, books, and other necessities, and sent him on his way. And this was the last time they saw him alive. A week passed. Zhijun's parents assumed he was back at school, living his normal life. To make matters worse, Qilu's phone had broken a few days earlier, so he couldn't even try to contact his son. Meanwhile, at the boarding school, his teachers and classmates had noticed Zhijun hadn't showed up. But it was flu season, and absences were common. They assumed he was just sick, maybe recovering at home. No one called the family to check. When the next weekend came and Zhijun didn't appear on time for his usual visit, his mother waited by the door. Hours passed. He never showed. His father tried calling Zhijun's phone from a different line. It rang and rang, but no one answered. On November 5th, Qilu called the school directly, and that is when he learned the truth. Zhijun hadn't been to school in over a week. He hadn't slept in his dorm. No one had seen him since he'd left for the old house. Qilu's heart sank. He rushed to the old family home, hoping, praying that his son was there, that there was some simple explanation. Qilu's heart was pounding as he approached the old house, and you already know what he found inside. His son hanging from the rafters. The red dress, the swimsuit, the weight, the ropes, the puncture wound. For a moment, Qilu couldn't move. Then his legs gave out. He collapsed to the ground and screamed. When he was finally able to stand up, he called the police. That evening, investigators from the Bannan District Criminal Investigation Team arrived, along with officers and forensic experts from the Chongqing Municipal Public Security Bureau. They took the body down and conducted a preliminary examination. The forensic report estimated that Zhijun had been dead for approximately 48 hours, meaning he likely died sometime between November 3rd and 4th. His body showed no signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds, no bruises suggesting he had fought back. All they found were the deep ligature impressions around his wrists and ankles, evidence of how tightly the ropes had been tied. His internal organs were taken for further investigation, but the results came back clean. They showed nothing unusual at all. And then they examined the scene. The house had a simple layout: a main room, 2 side rooms, and a kitchen where the back door was located. Zhijun usually slept on the big bed on the main room. and the beam he was found hanging from was right next to that bedroom. The scene itself showed no signs of robbery. Zhijun's belongings were still there. His textbooks and homework scattered across the bed and table, 2 packs of instant noodles with 1 eaten, his watch, calculator, mobile phone, CDs, and school bag. Inside the bag was 32.5 yuan in cash, the money his parents had given him. But investigators did note several strange details. There were candle wax drippings found on the bed and on the swimsuit Zhijun was wearing. There was the puncture wound on his forehead, small, about the size of a needle prick, located near what some would later claim was an acupuncture point. And then there was a door, a wooden side door leading out of the house. On it, someone had scrawled a large Chinese character in charcoal, Sha, meaning kill. Above the character was an X mark, and above that, another character, Wang, meaning king. When asked, Zhijun's father said his son had written it himself a long time ago, but he couldn't explain why. On December 5th, 2009, the police released their findings. They ruled Zhijun's death an accident, not homicide, and not a self-inflicted death, an accident. Specifically, they concluded that Zhijun might have accidentally killed himself in an attempt to do some kind of activity related to a superstition. The family was stunned. An accident involving superstition. How could a boy end up bound, hanging from a rafter, dressed in women's clothing, with a weight tied to his feet by accident? When journalists pressed the police for details, they offered this incredibly vague response. Playing a game can also cause death. Unsatisfied with this response, they called the police station asking for more information about the case and investigation. The officers flat out refused to talk about it. What kind of game? Played with whom? And how could a 13-year-old boy tie his own hands and feet with such precise knots, then hang himself from a beam? The police admitted they couldn't answer these questions. In a statement that would later circulate widely online, an officer reportedly told the father, "Not even the municipal bureau can explain this, let alone us at the district level." The family petitioned for an administrative review of the police findings on December 11th. The request was denied. The police had questioned everyone they could, family members, friends, classmates, teachers, but the investigation failed to turn up any new evidence. When asked about any signs of dangerous tendencies or suspicious behavior, Jilu told them that during Zhijun's last visit home, he didn't behave abnormally at all. He was still the same cheerful child that they knew, a boy who smiled at them warmly and loved to help his parents. On December 21st, the police issued their final conclusion. Zhijun had died from sexual asphyxiation, a form of accidental death caused by self-induced oxygen deprivation during sexual activity. And the police laid out their reasoning. The old house was Zhijun's own home, a private space where he could be alone, away from his parents and classmates, a place where he might feel safe to explore things he couldn't elsewhere. He was introverted, quiet, and isolated. He was at an age where adolescents often become curious about their bodies and identities. And then came the detail that would haunt the family. The police revealed that Zhijun had apparently worn women's clothing before. During questioning, his parents admitted they had once caught him wearing a dress belonging to his female cousin. The red dress found on his body was confirmed to be the same cousin's clothing. The swimsuit was more complicated. Some media reports claimed it also belonged to the cousin, but when journalists asked the father directly, he said he didn't know whose it was. The family denied this particular item belonged to the cousin. Based on these factors, the police theorized that Zhijun may have had what they termed cross-dressing tendencies, and that he had been secretly engaging in bondage and autoerotic asphyxiation. The candle wax drippings, they argued, suggested masochistic behavior. The complex rope bindings were consistent with erotic bondage practices, and a forensic examination had found traces of Zhijun's own semen at the scene. Their conclusion was that Zhijun had accidentally killed himself while engaging in a sexual act that just went too far. The police conclusion sparked outrage. For the family, the idea that their quiet, obedient son had died in such a manner was unbearable. They had known Zhijun his whole life. He showed no signs of psychological disturbance, no hint of sexual deviancy. He was just a shy kid who liked ghost stories. For the public, this explanation raised more questions than it answered. How could a 13-year-old boy, acting alone, tie his own hands and feet with such professional-looking knots and then hang himself from a beam? What about the puncture wounds on his forehead? That detail didn't fit the sexual asphyxiation theory at all. Why was the back door, a door the family never used, wide open, with the barricade neatly moved aside? And why were the police so eager to close the case without addressing these inconsistencies? The Chinese internet had its own theory, and it had nothing to do with sexual games. The theory started from Baidu, China's equivalent of Reddit, and spread like wildfire. Users noticed something about Zhijun's reported age at death. Based on the estimated time of death and his birth date, netizens calculated that Zhijun had died at exactly 13 years and 13 days old. And in traditional Chinese folk culture, particularly traditions associated with Taoist practices, the number 13 is considered deeply yin. Yin is the dark, cold, feminine energy in Chinese cosmology, associated with death, the moon, and the supernatural. To die at 13 years and 13 days was seen as the most yin state possible, what practitioners call zhi-yin, a condition that, according to believers, would make the victim's soul extremely valuable for dark rituals. Some users even suggested that the likely time of death was during the high period of the day, 9 to 11 p.m., traditionally considered the most yin hours of the day. But the 13 years and 13 days detail was never confirmed by official sources. It appears to have been calculated by netizens and may not be accurate. But accuracy didn't matter to those who believed. To them, the numbers were too perfect to be a coincidence. And the numbers were just the beginning. Netizens began analyzing every detail of the crime scene through the lens of Taoist mysticism. Specifically, the theory of the 5 elements, known as gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. They found all 5 present at the scene. The iron weight hanging from Zhijun's feet was said to represent gold. The beam from which he was hung was made from wood. The color of the swimsuit was black, which is a color associated with water in Chinese symbolism. The red dress represented fire, and the ground below, or some argue Zhijun's body itself, represented earth. In feng shui and a Taoist ritual practice, the 5 elements must be balanced and aligned. To have all 5 present at a death scene, arranged so deliberately, suggested to believers that this was no accident, and it was no self-inflicted death. This was a ritual. The theory coalesced around one name, Maoshan. Maoshan is a real place, a mountain in Jiangsu province that had been a center of Taoist practice for over 2,000 years. The Maoshan school of Taoism, founded during the Western Han Dynasty by 3 brothers named Mao Ying, Mao Gu, and Mao Zhong, collectively known as the 3 Mao True monarchs, became famous for its talismans, exorcisms, and rituals dealing with spirits and the dead. In popular culture, especially Hong Kong horror films, Maoshan sorcery became synonymous with supernatural rituals involving ghosts, curses, and manipulation of the soul. According to the online theory, Zhijun had been the victim of a Maoshan curse designed to do one of two things. Either shatter his soul so completely that he could never reincarnate, or harvest his soul for the sorcerer's own use. The theorists broke down each element. The red dress was a soul-locking garment, meant to trap the soul inside the body. The iron weight was a soul-weighing stone, meant to prevent the soul from escaping. The needle wound on his forehead was from a soul-splitting needle, inserted to fracture the soul. The hanging position, suspended off the ground, prevented the soul from returning to the earth and finding peace. And the female clothing, combined with the yin timing, maximized the dark energy, making the soul more potent for extraction. Believers argued that whoever did this had intimate knowledge of Zhijun, his date of birth, his schedule, and his family's habits. They knew when he would be alone. They knew the house would be empty. And they had the expertise to perform an elaborate ritual without leaving obvious evidence of their presence. The motive? Some speculated revenge against the family. Others suggested that the sorcerer needed Zhijun's soul to extend their own life or to achieve some kind of spiritual breakthrough. A few even connected the case to a string of other child deaths across China, suggesting there was a serial killer on the loose. None of this was ever proven. It remained and remains an internet theory with no evidence beyond pattern matching and superstition. But the theory took on a life of its own. Some people were especially drawn to the supernatural explanation after an interview with Zhijun's mother spread online. She revealed that she had a strange dream the night before her son was found, a dream that felt like a warning. The details of the dream varied depending on who retold it, but the timing was eerie enough to fuel speculation that something out of the ordinary had actually happened. Parents in some areas reportedly forbade their children from wearing red. Forum users posted prayers asking to be protected from the curse of the boy in red case. The story became a modern Chinese urban legend, discussed alongside other infamous unsolved cases. The case may have also inspired copycats. On April 17, 2013, a graduate student surnamed Peng was found dead in his dormitory at Nanchang Aviation University. His body was decomposed, his roommates had been away for months, and he was wearing women's clothing, black stockings, and white high heels. The death was ruled a sexual asphyxiation. Many online commenters drew immediate comparisons to the boy in red. In 2015, the case was adapted into a low-budget web horror film titled Yin Yang Records, The Boy in Red, released on iQIYI in early 2016. The film took creative liberties but introduced the case to a new generation. So what actually happened to Kuang Zhijun? The honest answer is, we don't know. The sexual asphyxiation theory, while uncomfortable, isn't impossible. Cases of adolescents dying from autoerotic accidents do occur, and they often involve elaborate setups that seem inexplicable to outsiders. The cross-dressing, the bondage, the secrecy, all of it fits a pattern documented in forensic literature. The Maoshan theory, on the other hand, requires a belief in supernatural forces and ritual magic. For skeptics, it's an example of pattern-seeking run amok, people attributing meaning to coincidences because the alternative, a random senseless death, is too disturbing to accept. But for believers, the details align too perfectly. The timing, the clothing, the elements, the positioning, all of it suggests intention, a dark, deliberate act by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Kuang Zhijun's case has never been reopened. As such, his family never received the answers they sought. The old house in Chongqing village sits abandoned now. Locals say Zhijun's father refuses to go back, that he's too afraid. And some say that on the wooden door, if you look closely, you can see the faded character, Sha, kill. The boy in red case isn't just a tragedy, it's a mirror reflecting China's anxieties about left behind children, about rural isolation, about police accountability, and the collision between modern skepticism and ancient beliefs. Was Zhijun the victim of his own secret desires? Was he murdered by someone he knew? Or was he sacrificed in a ritual most of us would dismiss as superstition? But what we know for sure is that his family deserved the truth, whatever that truth may be. So what do you think? Was this an accident, a murder, or just something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.